Hi, I'm Shoestring Jay and welcome back to my channel. Thanks for joining me again. Today I am going to talk about second-hand clothing. So why we should buy second-hand clothing at least some of the time and where you can buy it. So I've looked at some of the obvious places, but I'm also going to show you some of the less obvious places to buy second-hand clothing. So first question, I guess, is why should you buy second-hand? Well, my initial reason for buying secondhand, and I've always done it, is because of price. I'm on a budget, so I don't want to spend a lot of money. I do find I can find secondhand items that are of much better quality, and I wouldn't be able to afford the new versions. So that's what I look out for. I do also, though, give a new home to some fast fashion items from some of the high street companies and the online brands like Boohoo and Misguided if I like the style. I would never buy from them to start with, not new anyway. So yes, from point of view of your budget, buying secondhand can be really good, especially with children's items. You can get a lot of good children's clothes for next to nothing, and children just grow out of everything before they can wear out of them, don't they? Wear them out rather. Another reason that I like to buy secondhand is that it's much more eco-friendly. So the fashion industry is always telling us that we have to discard our old styles, we need to go buy the new trends, the new fashion, the new season. I hate all that constantly. And it's led to a situation where we are just, well, say we, a certain element of the population, perhaps younger people, are just buying stuff really quickly, wearing them very few times. They're on the catwalk one week, they're in the shops the next, and then they're out of season a few weeks after that. So they get produced very quickly, they're low quality, they're not valued, they get discarded. I read an estimate that said that the average item of fast fashion gets worn about 10 times and then they go possibly to landfill. An awful lot of them don't get reused, they don't get donated, they don't get recycled, they just get binned, which is just criminal really. And another reason I don't like buying fast fashion is because a lot of it is made from materials derived from plastics, which take an awful long time to degrade. They say up to 200 years for perhaps something containing polyester to biodegrade, which is, again, madness, it seems to me. There's also the issue of the workforce and the ethics around workforce. When you're producing fast fashion very fast, very quickly, then the chances are that the workforce are being underpaid and potentially working in really awful conditions. And I don't want to support that. So I don't want to buy those items from new. Although obviously those people, it's great for them to be employed, they shouldn't be employed in and living in slum conditions. This even happens in the UK. It's not just third world countries. You think about places like India and Pakistan when you consider that. But they have discovered that there are some real sweatshops where people are being paid half the minimum wage in the UK. So it enables the fashion brands to turn things around even more quickly because it's in the country where they're retailing them. But they're still the same kind of awful conditions, so I don't want to support that. So that's another reason not to buy the new fast fashion or even new items by second hand. Another reason to buy second hand is that it helps promote the idea of a circular economy. So once an item has been produced, it keeps it in use for as long as possible. And if you're using that item again rather than buying new, you're saving on all of the energy, the materials, the packaging, the transportation that's involved in a new item. So you bypass all of that. So okay, if you buy from eBay, you might get some packaging when your purchase arrives. You could ask the seller just to use some recycled packaging. Then everyone has some around, don't they, to send your item out. So I have been asked that before when I've sold on eBay, and I have also requested it. So it helps promote a circular economy. buying secondhand also gives you the opportunity to develop your own look. So fast fashion is all very well, but if you follow it slavishly, then you look the same as everybody else. You've got the same kind of look and style. I am no fashionista, as you can tell. Secondhand old jumper, I really don't care. I'm 58, I'm way past the stage where I cared about fashion. If you're a bit younger or just a bit trendy than me, you may well really care about how you look. And buying secondhand, particularly if you chuck in the odd vintage piece, you could develop something really quirky that's just your kind of look and your style, and buy things that really suit you and that you really like, rather than forcing yourself into something because it's fashionable or trendy. You do see people sometimes and you think, why are they wearing that? That's just like squeezed themselves into something that's just not suitable for their body shape or just doesn't suit them, but it's fashionable. So, go for something that really suits you and develop a style that you really like. So, where to buy your second-hand clothing? Some things are obvious. I mean, you can go to charity shops. Every town has charity shops. Some of them are more expensive than others. So if your budget is your first consideration, then search out the charity shops that perhaps have outlets, or some of them have like pound rails and that kind of thing. We're so lucky here. We've got a hospice shop which has kind of three grades of shop. They have their boutique, which is more expensive, and then they have a kind of mid-range shop as well, and then they have their pound outlet shop, which is fantastic. And I've found a surprising number of really nice things in there, because I think, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's the rubbish. It just means it hasn't sold quickly enough and they want a turnaround. So if you are lucky enough to have one, search it out. But, check out your charity shops and actually ask them if they've got an outlet shop. But, even if you go to an expensive charity shop, what I consider an expensive charity shop, if you look out for the better quality items, they'll still be cheaper than buying new. So really good brands, things that are decent quality, you will pay up for those, but it will still be a lot cheaper than buying from new. So, and you've also got all the environmental implications of buying secondhand again. So I go for boot sales and jumble sales if I can find them. The Scouts sometimes run them still. Yard sales, garage sale trails seem to be a new thing that's taking off here in the UK. That's a good place to get really cheap items, I've found. Obviously, they tend to be seasonal though, so you don't find those all the year round. Jumble sales, say they can be any time of the year. Boot sales, you're just looking at the summer months. But there are lots of opportunities to buy secondhand online now. So there's not just the obvious ones, although eBay is one of the obvious ones, and I do like eBay. I also like Vinted. It's kind of like Poshmark in the USA, I think. So it's mainly clothing. And then you've got Depop. I find Depop rather expensive. It's full of vintage items though. So if you like vintage, then Depop's your place to go. And if budget isn't your only consideration. Facebook Marketplace, I have picked up bags of like grouped clothings in, say, size 12 or size 14 from Facebook Marketplace, where someone's had a wardrobe clear out. So you can often get bargains there, and it's great for bundles of kids' items. So I'll show you first of all how I search eBay for secondhand items. Forgive me if you're an eBay user, a regular user, you'll know how to do this already, but some of you might not know this. I'm just going to share my screen and show you so you can easily search for secondhand items. For example, I'm going to search for a Jules dress. I like Jules. I'm going to search for a Jules dress, size 14. That's what I've looked for previously. So that's given me automatically those, but I only want to look at the used items. So I'm going to use condition and go to used. So that's only giving me the used ones. And, I might want to choose the dress length, or, whether it's sleeveless, that kind of thing. And you can go down here for that. I'm going to choose just blue dresses. Let's just have a look at blue dresses from Jules. And also, these are all varied kind of prices. I would like to see the lowest price items. Let's have a look at the lowest price ones. This one's on an auction, so it might not be the lowest price one. Ultimately, it started at 99p, as all of these are. If I don't want to mess around with auctions, I can just click on buy it now to see what I can buy straight away if I want to. And so these are my options. And you can see that I'm going for lowest price to highest price. But I could change that. I could go have a look at the highest price items. Let's have a look at what really expensive jewels. Not that bad. Even the expensive ones aren't that bad. So you can see the kind of things that you can buy. So that's perfect. So eBay's good, and you don't have to pay a fortune for it. Another good option, as I mentioned previously, for buying second hand is Vinted. So let's take a look at the Vinted site next. Another good option, Vinted. For second hand clothing, I do find Vinted tends to be slightly cheaper than eBay. So we can do a similar sort of search. I'm already looking at women's. You can also look at swaps. So that's something that eBay don't have. Find items for swap. So we've got women's clothes that people would consider swapping. Oh, look, wedding dress. So, oh, trainers, Adidas trainers, £30 those ones. So you can't do auctions on Vinted, you can just sell them. But you can search by condition again. So we could look at, well, new with tags, new without tags. We don't want to see those. Let's look at all of these options here. So they're going to be second hand. So this is just everything. Oh, somehow I seem to have got onto bags. I don't quite know why. I think I hit bags accidentally. So I'm going to look at women. So, okay, women size. Let's have a look at women's size 12. And again, we have this wedding dress. Perhaps that was meant to be. Mr. Shoestring, look, there's a wedding dress in my size. You can see the kind of things that are. People have bumped them, which means they want to sell them. You can actually approach people and make an offer. See if they'll take something slightly less. And it does a wardrobe spotlight on certain sellers from time to time. So this one's a Vincy Vintage. So obviously that's lots of vintage. So it would tend to be more expensive because it's vintage. Let's have a look. What else can we do? We can search by price. So we can do up to, let's say, £20. So we don't have to look at anything too expensive. If my budget's £20, I can just look at £20. Jacket could be good for this time of year. It suddenly got very cold. We've got a raincoat here. So again, it's really easy to search for second-hand items via Vinted. I'm going to look now at some slightly more alternative sites for buying second-hand clothing. You may not have heard of some of these, and there's also a couple of different ways to donate your old clothing via a couple of these sites. So let's have a look. Thrift Plus are on a par price-wise with eBay, but they only sell men's and women's clothing. They're quite an interesting organisation, actually, because they offer you a way not only of buying second-hand items, but of selling your stuff if you can't be bothered to list it on eBay or Vinted or anywhere like that. You order a bag and then you return it with your clothing, and it's a way to support charity because a percentage will go to the charities that Thrift Plus supports. So you will earn about a third of the profit. Thrift Plus take about a third, and the rest goes to charities. So it's quite an interesting concept. So you can either shop high street or shop designer. Obviously, I'm going to be looking at high street. Let's have a look at clothing. Oh, let's have a look at some, let's have a look, it's getting cold, let's have a look at some jumpers. Very slow loading today. What do we have? Oh, we have United Colours of Benetton, we've got a Zara top. You've got prices you can choose. Let's have a look at good, and let's have a look at, again, let's have a look at £10 to £20. We're looking at, we could look at colours if we want to. Those are the kind of prices. So again, it's not an auction site, it's a buy it now price. Not the cheapest actually, I think their prices have gone up a little bit since I looked last time. Not the cheapest, but it's got a good selection. So we can look at brands, particular brands if you want to. So if you particularly like Hobbs, for example, or All Saints, you could have a look there. And let's have a look at the Thrift Plus boutique. This is probably going to be the expensive stuff. Oh, look, we can get a Prada bag for £278. I wouldn't buy a second-hand, or even, well, I wouldn't buy a first-hand Prada bag, but I wouldn't bother paying £278 for a bag. That's just ridiculous. So this is if you like designer tags. Well, you probably love this stuff. I'm not a great fan myself. I really don't care. But you know, it's got some unusual and quirky things on here. So if you are a fashionista and you want second hand, some of this stuff looks new. So you want to try and whittle it down to new stuff. Thrift and boutique, some of that looks new. Let's have a look at special collectors. This is a Second Life store. So this is all second hand. It's not that cheap. I think it's quite expensive compared to even eBay actually looking at this. But you know, I quite like the concept, so it's worth checking out, particularly if you like brands and you like your designer stuff. Another one that I like is Beyond Retro. So I like Beyond Retro. I've bought gift cards as presents because when I've been struggling a bit to find presents for my nephews, I've bought gift cards for Beyond Retro because they have a lot of sportswear, vintage sportswear. They do sell some new items now, so if you're particularly looking for true vintage, you have to really look out for that. Look for the actual vintage stuff. So I don't know. Let's have a look at the vintage denim. Let's have a look at the vintage women's denim. Colourful vintage jeans. Oh, I like the sound of those. Let's have a look at these. Oh, gosh, some of these are ugly as hell, but if you like vintage, that's a very nice 80s style, isn't it? So this is for this is not for somebody looking for something really cheap, but it's for people looking for a good range of vintage stuff rather. So you know you're going to get it second hand. Let's have a look at the Levi's. Occasionally pick them up in charity shops, Levi's, but they haven't got any. Yes, they have. They've only got the colourful ones. Let's have a look at all women's jeans. So you've got a brilliant selection here of really different styles. I still love this kind of thing in the 80s. That's so 80s. We'll be seen dead in them now. That's Beyond Retro. Say gift vouchers, they're really good if you want to encourage other people to buy secondhand, but you don't want to choose for them. What have we got for Christmas? I bet we've got some great Christmas jumpers. Bear in mind though that you can pick up Christmas jumpers in the charity shops for very little money. These are quite expensive. But you know, if you want to buy a second-hand or retro or vintage jumper, this could be a place to look. One you may not have heard of, Refashion, and I like Refashion because their emphasis is very much on sustainability. You won't actually earn any money if you send them your items. It'll go to their charity. They take a 40% cut themselves, and the rest goes to their charity, which supports sustainability, and that's very much the emphasis. But you can shop on here and everything is secondhand. So let's have a look at the clothes. Let's have a look at their new arrivals. So we've got lots of different tops, high street brands, mostly by the looks of it here. You've got an Adidas running top. So it's kind of mid-priced, I would say, for second-hand items. Probably dearer than your local charity shop, but with more choice, more options. I mean, that's a Levi's t-shirt for £20. I think that's quite expensive, but you probably wouldn't find that in a charity shop. You'd be very lucky to find that in a charity shop. So it's a good way of finding particular things if you have a particular style. Let's have a look at size and price, so we can search by, oh yeah, they do children's. I'd forgotten to mention that they do children's, so I can search by 12 again. It's one of the few to do children's actually of these types of sites that eBay obviously do. And I'm going to search by price because price is a consideration to me. That's a really weird way of searching by price. So let's go for £30 tops. These are the kind of things that they have. Unusual, surprising number of kind of summery things. We're just going into autumn now. I like a print trouser. And some quite nice things. They seem to have a lot of these monsoon things. I wonder if they got a job lot and they're actually new, possibly. Same with the Chi dress. So that gives you an idea of some more unusual places to buy online anyway. I hope you liked this look at second-hand clothing and how and where you can buy it and why you should buy it. If you did, please give me a thumbs up and do consider subscribing so that you can see all of the new videos that I produce. I'm trying to do 2 a week at the moment. And the other thing that you might consider doing is, for not just for me, for any creators that you enjoy watching, is letting the adverts run once in a while, because that is the only way they get paid. If you skip straight through them, they don't get paid anything. You have to play them for 30 seconds. So if you consider doing that for a bit, that would be much appreciated. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.